Please welcome Ben Levick.
Hello. Hello, Make with Notion. Anybody else excited about Notion 3.0? Yeah? Pretty good. Well, my name is Ben Levick. I work at a company called Ramp, and I lead operations and some of the AI product teams there. And I'm really excited to follow up that amazing keynote with some of the lessons we've been learning at Ramp about how to bring AI fully into your team. I think Notion 3.0 is something we've already been spending a lot of time exploring with our team, and I hope to bring a mix of kind of the practical and the aspirational of what we're doing. So to really understand kind of why I'm here, Ramp has been interested in AI since it was founded, but we started to notice about a year ago that there was an acceleration in what AI could do for business. I imagine many of you have noticed the same thing. And so we started to get really serious. When the executive team got together at the beginning of the year, we said, we probably need to really get focused on AI for our team. And so we set what I think was like a humble, achievable mission, which was to become the most productive company in the world. And you might say, Ramp likes to bite off more than it can chew. We do that sometimes. But to understand why I actually think this is the right mission for our team, it's probably worth spending a minute on what Ramp does and why we exist. Ivan mentioned this a little bit in his keynote, but Ramp's external mission is to save our customers their most valuable resources, their time and their money. Time is money, and so we're really focused on bringing a set of finance tools to customers that are going to really unlock their most precious resources, keep them focused on their business. On the outside, that takes the form of a suite of powerful financial tools, everything from corporate cards to expense management to bill pay. And they're all for both finance teams, but also anybody who spends money in a company. And so if any of you are dreading going home after Make with Notion and filing an expense report for an hour and a half and digging through your bag for receipts, Ramp is there for you. If any of you have ever gotten into an infinite loop with your finance team and boss about whether you can get a new vendor approved, Ramp is there for you. And if any of you run your own business and spend way more time than you should moving money between different bank accounts just so that it's where it needs to be, Ramp is there for you too. We really are focused on putting money in the right places and saving you time doing it. And so AI agents, unsurprisingly, has been a big focus of Ramp as well. Under the hood, we really believe that AI agents can drive powerful new behaviors within finance. And like the Notion team mentioned, there are AI agentic behaviors that we can put everywhere. We've launched a set of agents already this year. We're actually going to launch more next week at our conference. So Jinx to Notion, agents is in the air. And we believe that they should be there to help humans focus their time on making fewer, more critical judgment calls. Let the robots do the busy work. Agents can do and humans can do the rest. And when you have this productivity mission, every day that goes by culturally as a company feels like a burning need to do more because you see all of your customers, you see how they are wasting their time and their money, and you want to go as fast as possible. So velocity, customer obsession, these are the values that power Ramp. And it's given us the ability to serve 45,000 customers and counting, for which we've saved almost 30 million hours of wasted time, $10 billion of wasted money. And it's given us the opportunity to partner with like-minded companies like Notion. So we rolled out Notion at the beginning of this year. Notion also runs their finance on Ramp. So it's two productivity companies productivitying each other's productivity. It's a great productivity dream. So if we get back to the internal mission, to become the most productive company in the world. Okay, that's the why, but what is the how? Obviously, AI agents are going to play into this. But it's a pretty simple question to answer how AI agents are going to make us productive. It's by making each team member the most productive possible version of their work. In some ways, we do that by making teams faster. AI can automate a lot of manual processes. You just saw 17 demos of how that can be done. It can instantly deliver information where it needs to be. Importantly, it can also make you better at your job. There's also a lot of ways I've seen AI make people worse at their job, so be careful here. But to become better at your job, it's really using the deep research capabilities, the ability of AI to go further than you can into understanding things and bring you back what's important so you can make the best possible decisions. But the real magic, the rubber hits the road, is that AI is faster and better at the same time. When you can do all of that deeper research instantly, then you can afford the opportunity to make bigger decisions with more information. When you make bigger decisions with better information, you can afford to go faster as a team. And so what we've really tried to find is those opportunities to get our teams faster and better simultaneously. Where do we see that happen? Notion mentioned this too. Coding is an obvious one. We have seen tools like Cursor, Claude Code, Codex really power up our engineering team. It's gotten us to ship 270 features just in the first half of this year, which is more than one feature a day. It's more than the entire year in 2024. The engineering team is running really fast. They are deploying a DevX team to just teach them new tools. And so the impact's really clear there. What I think is a question is, what about everything else? We just saw a lot of amazing tools from Notion, but how do you actually put them into practice? And I think here, I talk to a lot of people on my team and a lot of colleagues in other companies, and what I often see is that there's a few limiting beliefs that are often slowing teams down in their ability to really get under the hood of how to use AI within a team. I'll go through three of them. The first one I'm going to call the doomers. This is the folks who basically say, well, AI is going to take all of our jobs. We should probably just roll over and wait for it to happen. Okay, it's an interesting take. It's one that, if it comes true, will be unfortunate. But I think it's a reason not to take action when action is actually the most important thing to do. The second one I'll call the zoomers. They're kind of on the other side of the spectrum, which is AI tools are becoming more powerful every month. LLMs are going wild. In a few months, we can just buy a tool, hit a button, and it'll do our jobs for us perfectly. Okay, I really hope that happens. That would be great for my job. But I do think that it's going to be a little harder than this because that ignores understanding all of the work that's actually happening that needs to be replaced. And then the third one, I really just had to come up with another rhyming word, so I went with boomers. This is the one where people are saying, dang, AI is moving really fast. Every morning the news is different. I'm going to wait a year or two because by then they'll have figured out the right way to do it, and then we buy AI, then we get going. And I think this is probably the most dangerous one because it puts you in this passive waiting mode, and I guarantee you're going to be waiting forever, where what you need to be doing is learning, practicing, getting the hang of how to do AI in this era. So what I want to propose and what we've been doing at Ramp this year is a fourth mode, and I think it's going to get good reception in an audience like Make with Notion, and it's the idea of builders. It's the idea that work is changing fundamentally. The way that you do your job today or that you did it a year ago should not be the job that you're doing in a year or two. But if you're curious and if you're driven, you can become a builder that's going to usher in the new version of your job. I think the nice thing about builders is it puts you back in the driver's seat in the AI era. And in some sense, it also brings us back to something more primal. I've shamelessly stolen this image from the first Make with Notion conference because I love it so much, but we all started as builders. We all got into Legos and blocks and puzzles. And then somewhere along the way, knowledge work became something other than building. It became you stuck in a set of tools that you have to use exactly some way, doing the same work day after day. And I think what AI can unlock for every person in a company, not just the engineers, not just the coders, is a sense that you are now back in the driver's seat to build the type of work you want to do. This is obviously something that we get a lot of help from Notion with. And the way we've gone about delivering it is in 3 stages that I'll title as kind of the chapters of prompt, knowledge, and workflow. What do I mean by those 3 words? The prompt is getting your team or yourself to be able to define precisely what you want AI to do. The knowledge is to understand what that AI then needs to know, what data, what information, in order to do the thing you want. And if you've defined that well, it's probably producing something of value, and the workflow is then how do I put it where and when I want it to be. And if these 3 things feel familiar from the Notion keynote, and as I go through each of them, that's no accident. One of the reasons that we're happy Notion customers is that Notion has been a key part of each of those journeys for us. So let's jump in. Let's talk a little bit first about what I mean by prompt. This is not the 100th LinkedIn advertised prompt engineering workshop where I tell you that if you tell AI it's a genius, it'll give you better results. Put that aside. When I mean prompt, I mean getting your team or yourself in the driver's seat doing prompting with AI. What we did at Ramp at the beginning of this year when we started this become the most productive company in the world journey is we gave everybody ubiquitous access to a lot of AI tools. We more or less have a policy where if you request an AI tool that involves you writing prompts for AI, we will say yes. But we specifically preload every laptop at Ramp with 3 tools: ChatGPT, Notion and Notion AI, and Perplexity. And the reason that we love those three tools is they force the person using them to write actual prompts that will have AI go and do something. You don't get to just hit a button and then under the hood, somebody else has decided what AI does. It means you yourself have to be the one to define what happens. And we've had pretty good adoption on that. We have about 1,200 people at Ramp. We have about 90% monthly active usage of Notion and Notion AI, about 100% weekly active usage of ChatGPT across the team. That's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individual practice sessions every month that our team is getting. And I think that's really crucial. What I love most is this 9 stat. Out of the top 10 power users of ChatGPT at the company, they represent 9 different departments across the team. So this is not just engineers, it's not just product people, it's operators, it's sellers, it's marketers, it's everyone. And so getting ubiquitous adoption means we're getting those practice reps. And we've had to do work beyond just giving you a license. It's not as simple as just, here's ChatGPT, go have fun and do AI. We do a ton of enablement. Every group that starts at Ramp gets kind of a onboarding boot camp for how we use these tools. We update that every 2 weeks because it's always changing. But we try to get you brought in at the cutting edge of how we think you should be doing it. We separately go every quarter or so around every department in the company, hear them out on the biggest problems they're having, and then try to find ways to get them started using AI to solve 1 or 2 of those problems, build the muscle. And finally, we have a little Slack channel, Ramp Uses AI. We launched it without doing a ton of marketing. Nobody's like forced into this channel. We're up to about 600 people, half the company in the channel now, and it gets daily active usage, just trading tips, saying, here I'm stuck, and kind of making the kind of wheels turn across AI and prompting in the company. I'm on part of this channel, and people separately often DM me on Slack and say, Ben, I just tried to use AI for something and it was terrible. I don't think AI works. And what I ask them is, what did you prompt it to do? And too often, what I end up seeing is, well, I prompted it, what are the benefits of Notion for Ramp? And then I got a result, and read this, it's not very good. It's very vapid, and it doesn't say anything specific. It's a super vague response. Why doesn't AI work? And, you know, it's not bad AI, it's bad usage of AI. And so it's a great lesson to be able to teach people. We have this epidemic of vagueness, I think, in how we do work now. And while I think Google Search is one of the greatest products ever made, I do lay some of the blame for it at Google Search's feet, because if you're sitting in your cubicle and you're typing 3.5 paragraph long Google searches, your coworkers are gonna peer over and wonder what's wrong with you. We all learned that the pattern for getting stuff out of the internet is type 3 words, scroll around, click some buttons, eventually you'll find what you want. And the irony is that AI demands exactly the opposite of us. AI is so focused entirely on precision. It's a word I use all the time at Ramp now, because if you can provide deep, precise, context-rich information to AI, it will usually deliver for you. I think it's easy to say, so go be precise, you'll be fine. But it's a lot harder to actually do it. I get writer's block all the time when I stare down the scary ChatGPT new prompt. I don't know exactly what I want. And this is where the biggest unlock I'll share today really comes in. And that is to use AI to do better AI. You are not alone in the journey anymore. You don't have to wait until your boss has a moment to help you. You have this all-powerful tool next to you that can help you out of the vagueness trap and into precision. And I call this the prompt feedback loop, which is you start with your vague prompt, that's okay, put it in, but rather than just hit enter and get that terrible output, ask AI to ask you smart questions that will give it more information to work for you. And it'll give you a couple usually pretty good questions. And now your job is to write a lot of stuff back to it. This is literally AI extracting precision from you so that it can do better work. And you don't actually have to write the follow-up prompt yourself. You just take all the stuff you splatted out and ask AI to summarize it into a new and better prompt. And you can go around this loop as many times as you want. And when you feel like you're ready, you hit enter, you see if you got the magic that you wanted. And if you don't, then you just go around the loop again. This is a pattern I am using now every day, and it is getting me much better results. I did 2 rounds of it with the, how is Notion good for Ramp? Ended up with a 6-page summary. It cites a million quotes. It has a bunch of sources. This is the kind of thing I send to my boss and get promoted. Like, it didn't take a whole lot longer, but it just forced me to be precise. There's 2 other pro tips I'll share on precision. One, they talked about it. AI meeting notes is amazing. Getting transcripts of every conversation you have is amazing. If you're not doing it already, find a tool and do it. I think that Notion Calendar along with Notion AI Meeting Notes is great. There are others, but one way or another, insert all of that context into the AI world that you live in and use it to build precision. What you can also do now that Notion Agent is live is you can take, say, your weekly meeting, you can combine it in a quick prompt, hopefully more precise than what I actually put up here, with other documents, maybe your roadmap or your team's project database, and you can directly have your meeting notes interact with all the other artifacts you put on Notion. And with Notion Agent able to take action in databases, it can then go do the updates for you. So I now get out of my team meeting, and within 10 minutes, everything we talked about is appropriately reflected back in the spaces where we live in Notion. The last one, find a way to do AI dictation, voice to text. It's a little different than meeting notes. It's literally put your cursor anywhere on your desktop and hit a button and you start talking and it starts to record everything you say and then it edits it to be even better than what you said. There are tools like WhisperFlow, Super Whisper, Mac Whisper. They all have the word whisper in them. That's how you can find them. Pick one that you like. But this is a great way to, again, be able to really speed up that precision journey. I have support team members who can now voice type, we call it, 200 words per minute, which is twice what they could before. And so if we go back to this idea of faster and better, that speed is what drives their ability to now put better answers out to our customers, get through more work, think a little bit more deeply. So once you have your team good at prompting, the next big phase is knowledge. And for knowledge, I think this is a misunderstood space still in AI. It's a place where, and you'll see in a bit, I don't always agree with Notion on how to approach this. But I do know one thing, and that is that knowledge managers have gotten a bad rap. I think it is often seen as an esoteric, kind of dorky field. Knowledge management work is often on the bottom of people's list of things they have to do in any given week or month. And I think that the AI era is going to fundamentally remake and re-elevate the importance of knowledge management in companies. And frankly, if you're earlier in your career and you want to find a place I think will be useful for another generation, knowledge management. And part of that is because if you've ever worked at a big company, you probably lived in this, which is you have a dozen different tools where your knowledge is stored. It is routing the information from that to a bunch of different places. It is maintained by half a dozen teams. Those tools have the same information but represented in different ways. They're constantly out of alignment. They're vague. They're not kept up. And now we pour gasoline on the fire, which is tons of AI that is asking those tools questions and then probably telling your customers information that it found. And you as the person, or me, I guess, as the person who has to own the knowledge of the company, I'm pretty terrified that I'm going to lead to a lot of meh customers from the setup. And so we've really this year doubled down, tripled down on knowledge management. It's a first-class problem at Ramp. And we've figured out what we think A+ AI knowledge means. It's really four things. It's being single-sourced, maniacally accurate, meaning keeping it up to date, crystal clear, describing everything as clearly as you can, and then you have to teach the team to actually use it wisely. Let's go quickly through each of those. First one's kind of the Notion sales pitch all over again, right? When we deployed Notion at the beginning of the year, in addition to the AI functionality, we loved that it let us consolidate half a dozen tools into one. And it wasn't just because of the cost savings. It's obviously nice. It helps me to get people to agree to roll out Notion. But the real benefit is now you have a single place where all of the knowledge that is important about your product and your customers and your policies lives, and it can interact with each other. Now when something on the product roadmap rolls out, it can automatically update our SOPs about that part of the product. When a new set of tasks is completed by a team, it can automatically reshape the wiki for that team if that needs to happen. So once it's all in one place, it's much easier to decide what is the core source of truth for each thing that your company does. And it goes further. We also take full advantage of Notion's AI connectors. So we've plugged Notion into Slack, GitHub, Google Drive, Linear. I'm really excited about the MCP stuff. We hope to have Ramp be on this list someday for all of the Ramp customers in the audience. But the ability to use Notion AI in addition across Notion, across everything else in your ecosystem where information is stored, that's a real crucial thing. And it gets even better. We've taken some more creative means to get information out of customer sources of truth in CRMs like Salesforce and Zendesk, surveys from Sprig, and so on. For those, we often have really important information, but it's sitting in this silo that's really hard to break into. So we scrub it of personal information. We have an amazing info security team that helps with that. And then we plug it through connectors into Notion as well. So now we have in Notion a database of all of our sales feedback. That's really useful to combine with all the information that's already there. So get everything into a single source of truth. And then if you know me at all by now, do feedback loops with it. Feedback loops are great in the AI era. And so we have something called knowledge feedback loops. With your single source of truth, you're going to be using it all over the place. As you use it, it's going to fail you. As it fails you, you can have people submit those failures. You can have AI submit those failures. You can have AI monitors that are built on Notion custom agents just looking for places where it clearly didn't do the job. AI can also research and propose the updates based on those signals, and then all your human is there for is to serve as the core arbiter of what is actually true. And that allows your knowledge to get better and better and be used in more and more places. Let's bring this to life though quickly. So this is our SOP hub. This is where we store all of the policy documents for RAMP. If I open my Notion AI agent, I can ask it a question about, per diem expenses. Maybe I have a customer that wants to know about a specific policy. All right, Notion ponders, it does its work. And yes, we get the right answer. And beautifully, we get to click right into the article that that answer was sourced from so that we can confirm that it's actually true, make sure we're not hallucinating. But let's say that I know that this is actually not correct. I was just in a meeting and it turns out there's now some exception to this general policy. And if this gets sent to the wrong customer, it's actually going to confuse them quite a bit. I can now tag in through Notion Agent a SOP feedback database. And I can just explain what I think is wrong. And now Notion Agent, who can modify databases, goes ahead and fully adds the row to that feedback database. This in turn creates a signal to our knowledge manager who owns this piece of knowledge that something might be wrong. So that's great. We've moved much faster. This probably wouldn't have been submitted at all, frankly, if it hadn't been so easy. And they can take a look, they can figure it out. But it gets better. We've built a prototype of a custom agent on top that is going to attempt to rewrite the article for us so that our knowledge manager doesn't have to waste time actually figuring out what the intended fix is. We put in the triggers, we put in the instructions, we put in the tools and access that it has access to, all the things that we just saw in the keynote. And once it's done, it checks a box just to let us know it did it, and it pastes the new article down in that feedback. Now all I have to do if I'm the knowledge manager is read through that, make sure that I agree this is actually a new part of our knowledge, and put it back in the original document. So a whole thing that would have taken probably a week sitting in a ticket queue, may not have gotten submitted at all, is now easy. And so once you get good at your knowledge feedback loops, you can focus on your data too. And here the real key is that most data teams are not notoriously super clear in how they describe the data tables that they produce. And we've tackled that head on. Our data team has actually spent a lot of time being more knowledge managers, writing these natural language documents that really describe all the nuances and intricacies of how the data works, stuff that was previously tribal knowledge. And when it's done, you can build things like Ramp Research. This is a tool that we launched a couple months ago that literally, you ask any question in Slack, it'll think for a couple minutes, it'll use those descriptions of our data, it'll produce a full report along with all of the data queries that it used to generate that report that you can then use to go and do other work with that question. The beauty here is it's the most clear, faster, and better story I can tell you. The blue line here is how many manual data analyst requests we were getting before we launched Ramp Research. The green is when we launched the tool. We now have 15 times more people using the data of Ramp to do their work. And it's because it's so fast and easy to do. So faster drives better, drives faster, drives better. And finally, the one place that I disagree with Notion's design philosophy today is that the default when you open knowledge as a user is all sources I can access. I do not want my team to use all sources I can access all the time. There's a lot of bad stuff out in our Slack. There's a lot of years old stuff out in Google Drive. I maintain places that are sources of truth. And so one of the nice things that Notion does do is it lets me pick out the specific places that I want to access knowledge, but it's really the onus being on the user of that knowledge, the person who wants something, to be a little more specific. And I think all of you who are writing prompts should also be thinking about the precision of what knowledge scope you actually want to be looking over so that you don't get yourself into a situation of outdated info. And so that brings us to the last piece, workflows. We want everybody to be able to build their own way out of their own workflows. And so this is really about scaling, doing things one time to 1,000 times really easily. And the challenge that this has historically posed is, yeah, it's easy to write a great prompt, not easy, but you can do it yourself. It's something you do yourself to put the right knowledge and information into that prompt. it's still very technical feeling. It requires engineers to go and like hook that up so every time Slack comes in or every time something fires in Salesforce, something happens. And so when we talk about workflow, it's really about no longer needing to rely on technical teams to do all those connections. And in the last few months only, have the tools become good enough that we finally feel good that we can put workflows in everyone's hands. We use a tool called Gumloop. There are others like it, but we find it to be really intuitive to emblematically say what the workflow concept is. You take any input and trigger for work, you pull in all the information you need, you start it, you do AI with it, the prompting and the knowledge stuff, and then based on what you get, you put the output somewhere else. The way that Gumloop makes it seem so straightforward is that it gives you all of the nodes for the inputs and outputs separately, and then you can spend all of your time and craft focused on the AI in the middle. And so we've seen multiple teams get value out of this. Our product team uses it to do weekly updates for their projects in Slack. It automatically summarizes from 4 or 5 different sources and puts it all in one place. Our sales team is getting pretty good at getting all of the deep web research that they need done and automatically drafting emails into their outbox to send to prospects. And our operations team builds more complex flows that will answer questions when it can and branch off and ask experts for answers when we don't know the answer. I think what you just saw with custom agents is hand in glove to this as well. I think one of the things that Notion does especially well is it can use a lot more intuition inside of the walls of Notion. And so, yeah, the sales feedback database that we use, for instance, we now have a custom agent whose job is, I need to come up with a better name and a hat, I think, but sales feedback categorizer. It takes the sales feedback in, tries to find something on our roadmap that would address that feedback. And if it's, say, a feature that's already in a private alpha or something, we'll go ahead and just draft the email for the account manager to be able to potentially one-click enable the person on that tool, solve their issue, and move them forward. So I think there's a lot more work we're still going to do over the rest of the year on workflows, but the pieces are now in place. And so that's really the system. You have your prompt, what precisely do you want? You have your knowledge, what do you need to know to do it? Then you have your workflow, which is when and where you want it. And so the pattern becomes clearer and clearer. We've spent this year really focused on moving fast and executing here because at the end of the day, again, we want to build a company that is not just button pushers. We don't want to buy into kind of the myth of doomers and zoomers and boomers that you have to wait until it's easier for you. We want all of the people at Ramp to have it be harder at first, to go practice, to go get good at this work. Because on the other side, we believe not only that it can make us the most productive company in the world, but we also believe that it can make work more fulfilling for the people at Ramp. You get to really control your own destiny when you're the one who wakes up, decides what you don't like about your job, and feels enabled on the tools to go and build your way out of it. It also compounds. Innovation compounds in this space. So the team members who are out front and are getting the hang of things, they work faster, and then they can share what they did, and other people can adopt it. And they might not adopt 100% of it. They might take the draft, and they might tweak a few things to their liking. They might swap out the Notion hat and put in some new instructions. And then the last piece is, it's fun. Like, I've had more fun this year building random stuff with AI, even when it fails, than I did when my job was more of a button pusher job. And so I think it's something where if you take the time to get yourself really productive, you get 2 dopamine hits along the way. One is when you crack the problem of how to automate the work that you didn't like doing. And the second is when on the other side, it goes quiet for a minute because you don't have to do that work anymore. You have more time in your day. And so as a company that's geared towards saving time and money, it feels as internally consistent as it can be to be taking this approach with Ramp. So closing out, what are you going to build? You've been here for an hour and a half now. You've heard about a ton of tools. You presumably all use Notion. If you're not yet full users of Notion AI, like, pay them their money and get the full suite of tools. It's a great building place to learn this stuff, but get down the learning curve. I think a lot of people that I talk to still seem to be waiting for something. It's not going to come. Now's the time. And so if you can get good at the prompt, if you can get good at understanding knowledge, if you can learn how to put it into your own workflows, what magical thing that felt out of reach a couple hours ago now feels achievable? What are you going to build? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk you through. Thank you. If you want to learn a little more about Ramp, the QR code has some info on our team and products, but really excited for the presentations today, and I appreciate it.